listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
It is Thursday, January 16th.
A chilly day. It went from spring back to winter.
Temperature's dropping very quickly.
It's fine.
But
it's
there's
just
a little bit of sunshine out there.
I know.
So there's a positive side to that.
It looks like it's warm.
You know what else is delightful besides just sunshine? A good contest.
Yes.
We're going to talk about an exciting contest for students with CCLE, Consortium for Classical Lutheran Education, coming up this year. And entries are being welcomed right now, I believe, for some of the contests. So so I'm excited to share that with you. And also in the second half, the Gateway Creation Conference coming up in April here in St. Louis. I want to share some information with you about that and some stories. We get to talk with one of the speakers. I'm excited to talk with Dr. Danny Faulkner.
Science.
Yay, science.
I love talking about science.
It's a great day here on the Coffee Hour. Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting the Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
Joining us by phone this morning, Dr. Jackquelyn Veith. She's Executive Director of Educational Certification for the Consortium for Classical Lutheran Education. Dr. Veith, thanks so much for being our guest on the Coffee Hour today.
You're welcome.
We always love talking about about CCLE and Classical Lutheran Education, and one of the neat things that CCLE does in conjunction with their annual conference is student contests. Now, some student contests are already underway, and submissions have already been closed for that, but there are more as well taking place. Tell us about the ones that are still open for this year that students can participate in. Is there, I believe, an essay contest? Is that right?
Yes, there is an essay contest. Every year since 2015, we've been doing an essay contest. So we're into year 6 of this, and we changed the focus of the essay contest each year to match our summer conference. So this year, our summer conference theme is Multum non multa, which for some people who might be listening to that is sounds Latin to me. Well, it is Latin. So what it means is that classical education has always emphasized the importance of going in depth. And the expression multum non multa, much not many, represents that. It comes from Pliny the Younger, and I'll try to say this the best I can. Aiunt enim multum legendum esse non multa, which is, in fact, they say that one should read much, not many things. So in classical education, we think we should read and study much, which helps us to develop a sense of the breadth of all of the subjects of a classical education, as opposed to many unconnected books and subjects. So we want much, the quality in our education, as opposed to many, which is just how many different books can you read that don't have anything to do with each other. So our essay contest this year, we have 2 different prompts or themes that students can participate in. They can write a dialectic essay, which asks them to think about their own education in terms of multum non multa, much not many. You know, what subjects and books have you studied in depth? How can your education emphasize quality and not just quantity? So if they are interested in reflecting on their own education, they can go into that particular prompt or essay division. Or they could write a persuasive essay where they make the case for much education as opposed to an education that's either too narrow or a too superficial education. So they've got kind of a choice on the essay contest this year, and I'm very excited and anxious to see what people will write about.
I imagine there'll be some very interesting things. It's already making me think about my own education, the books that I'm listening to right now, getting down all sorts of rabbit holes about all this history and religion and all that stuff. But how does
exactly? Yeah,
it's so invigorating. How does this essay contest fit into the larger breadth of a classical education for these students?
Well, it's interesting that you would ask that, because as I was thinking about talking with you this morning, I thought, okay, what does a contest have to do with the big picture, the philosophy and all? Well, I kind of want to take it back to the mission of CCLE is to promote, establish, and equip individuals and schools committed to confessional Lutheran doctrine and the classical approach to education. But what does that mean to a student? What in the world does that mean to a child or to a student? And how does it help equip the teachers? So contests are an opportunity for the teachers to encourage and help get their students excited about actually producing or writing and speaking and thinking about what they're learning in using the tools that they've developed. So one of our board members said it this way, you probably have heard classical educators talk about, whatever is true, whatever is good, whatever is beautiful. Those are very important categories or criteria, values for classical education. And she said, well, we have the contest, the essay contest is where the students will write about the truth. We have the recitation performance contest where they will reflect and demonstrate goodness. And then we have a penmanship contest, which they can exemplify beauty in. So we're trying to provide kind of very student-level applications for the students to see, oh, yes, I can contribute to truth. I can demonstrate goodness. I can actually create some beauty. So the recitation contest this year is the one that's already closed, but the essay contest is going on right now, and the submission deadline for that is April 17th. So any of the CCLE schools that are interested in doing this, that they go to the ccle.org website. All of the directions and the rubrics are posted there so they can learn about that. The next contest that we will be posting probably in the month of February will be the penmanship contest. And I don't know if you realize that penmanship really hasn't had much of a support in the last decade or so in education. And yet we think that it is an important tool, skill to have. So we want to support the students learning very legible handwriting and indeed beautiful handwriting. So we have contests for the younger students to be able to demonstrate very clear, beautiful print writing as well as script cursive writing.
You mentioned earlier that students of CCLE schools are eligible to enter. Does that include homeschool students as well?
Absolutely. Homeschool students are encouraged to enter. As a matter of fact, we almost always have several homeschool students who are among the winners in the contest. So they definitely, again, if they go to the ccle.org website, the directions are listed. The rubrics, which explain exactly what we are looking for, are listed. And yes, we encourage as many people as possible to participate, including the homeschoolers.
As we live in a very hyper-connected, information-abundant culture, I was reflecting as you were describing the process for this contest, for students, for the essay contest, reflecting on their own education, just pausing and thinking about their own education rather than receiving a little bit of information and then just acting on it and writing an essay on it, but rather reflecting on their own education and thinking critically even about one's own education. We have just about 2 minutes left, but share with us a little bit more about that process of reflecting what you want students to learn or to experience in the process of writing for the essay contest.
In classical education, you probably have also heard it described as having levels: grammar, dialectic, and rhetoric. And grammar is just learning the very beginning basic foundational facts. That's not sufficient, however. You've got to move on into the dialectic or logic level, which does require you to analyze what you have learned in your foundation. And then you move on into the rhetoric level in which you apply it to new situations or with new information added to you. So reflecting on your own education, that's a very, very major step for students to think. Children are just handed, poured out into all sorts of information. And if that's all that ever happens, they're never going to take that next step of, you were saying critical thinking. I would call it analytical thinking, but it's the same thing. They never start to actually internalize and appreciate and start developing perspectives and developing an understanding of how things connect together. Unless they can analyze, they'll never be able to do that. So an essay that asks them to do that, but in a non-threatening way, is an opportunity for them to start thinking.
The CCLE student contest, the essay contests, you can find out more information at ccle.org. We'll provide a link in the program notes today as well. Dr. Jackquelyn Veith, Executive Director of Educational Certification for CCLE. Thank you so much, Dr. Veith, for being our guest on the Coffee Hour.
You're welcome.
Coming up in just a little bit, the Gateway Creation Conference happening here in St. Louis in April. We get to talk with Dr. Danny Faulkner. We get to geek out on some science.
Yes.
So, you're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Eddie Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.